Good day and good morning, sir. My name is Mark Chidor Concon, and today will be discussing a legal case that focuses on physical injuries inflicted at tumultuous affray under Article 252 of the Revised Penal Code. The case will be examined is People of the Philippines versus Jimmy Julianda, Nolito Julianda, and Samson Guerrero. In this case, tumultuous affray occurred resulting in serious physical injuries to one of the participants. However, because the specific person responsible for the injury could not be identified, the court ruled under Article 252, which applies when violence is used in a fight but no single individual can be held accountable for the injuries. Number 1, facts of the case. Understanding the key details and sequence of the events. Number 2, legal issue. The main legal question involved. Number 3, court decision. How the Supreme Court ruled on the case. Number 4, the elements of the crime. What makes an incident qualify as physical injuries in a tumultuous affray under the Revised Penal Code. Let's go and dive into the details of the case. Now, let's discuss the facts of the case. People of the Philippines versus Jimmy Julianda and Nolito Julianda and Samson Guerrero, which involves physical injuries inflicted in a tumultuous affray under the Article 252 of the Revised Penal Code. Who are the parties involved? The accused in this case are Jimmy Julianda, Nolito Julianda, and Samson Guerrero. They were charged in a connection with a violent altercation that led into physical injuries. The victim, whose identity was established in a court, sustained serious injuries during the accident. What happened? The incident occurred during a heated, tumultuous affray where multiple people were involved in a fight. Amidst the commotion of one of the participants suffered serious physical injuries. However, due to the chaotic nature of the event, the exact individual responsible for inflicting the injury could not be determined. Where did it occur? The affray happened in a public setting that the case records do not specify an exact location. The event escalated into violence, leading to the injury that prompted the case. What was the prosecution evidence? The prosecution presented witness testimonies that confirmed a violent fight broke out involving multiple people. The victim sustained serious injuries but not identify who exactly caused them. The accused were present and participated in the affray, but there was no direct proof linking a specific individual to the inflicted injuries. What was the defense argument? The defense claimed that the accused did not directly cause the injuries or were merely presented but not actively involved in the affray. Since no clear evidence was presented proving that any of them personally inflicted the harm, they argued that they should not be held criminally liable. In the next session, we will discuss the legal issue of the court's ruling on this case. The legal issue: whether the accused Jimmy Julianda, Nolito Julianda, and Samson Guerrero are guilty of the physical injuries inflicted at tumultuous affray under Article of the Revised Penal Code. Since the case involves a chaotic altercation where multiple individuals were engaged in a violence, the court must determine if the accused can be held liable despite the fact that the specific person responsible for inflicting the injuries could not be identified. Now, let's move on to the court decision and how it applied the law in this case. Court decision. In the case of People of the Philippines versus Jimmy Julianda, Nolito Julianda, and Samson Guerrero, the Supreme Court ruled that the accused were guilty of the crime of the physical injuries inflicted in a tumultuous affray under Article 252 of the Revised Penal Code. Supreme Court ruling: the court found that a tumultuous affray occurred when the multiple individuals engaged in violence leading to physical injuries. The victim sustained serious physical injuries, but exact person responsible for the inflicting those injuries could not be identified. Because the specific perpetrator could not be pinpointed, all individuals who appeared to have participated in the violence were held criminally liable under Article 252. Legal reasoning. Tumultuous affray took place and the participants suffered serious physical injuries or less serious injuries. The actual perpetrator was unknown, and the accused appeared to have participated in the violence. Liability under the revised penal code. Since the director perpetrator was identified, the penalty imposed was the one next lower in degree that can provide for the actual injury suffered. If the injury was serious, the penalty was prison correctional. If the injury was less serious, the penalty was arresto mayor, 5 to 15 days of imprisonment. Thus, the Supreme Court upheld the conviction of the accused, emphasizing the principle that in a tumultuous affray, all those who appear to have a violence that can be penalized when the real offender remains unknown. Application of the law elements of the crime. In People of the Philippines versus Jimmy Julianda, Nolito Julianda, and Samson Guerrero, the accused were charged with physical injuries inflicted in a tumultuous affray under the 252 of the revised penal codes. Elements of the crime and their application. Number one, there is a tumultuous affray as referred into the Article 251, and the case involved a chaotic fight among multiple persons. A witness confirmed that several individuals participated and the fight was disorderly and violent. Number two, participant or some participants suffered serious or less serious physical injuries. The victim sustained serious physical injuries as proven by medical records and testimony from doctors and witnesses. The prosecution presented evidence of fractures and wounds confirming the severity of the injuries. The person responsible for the injuries cannot be identified. No single individual could be identified as the perpetrator of the injuries. Due to the number of participants, it was possible to determine who is specifically caused the harm. All those who appeared to have used violence upon the victim are known. Multiple witnesses testified that the accused actively engaged in the fight and used force against the victim. Their participation in the affray made them liable under Article 252, even though the exact aggressor could not be determined. Since all the elements of Article 252 was established, the Supreme Court ruled that the accused were guilty. This case highlights the importance of Article 252 in ensuring accountability in group fights where individual perpetrators cannot be identified. It presents invasion of liability by holding all those who can violence responsible for their actions. The lesson I learned in tumultuous affray, participation alone can be result in criminal liability. Identifying the exact perpetrator is not necessary for conviction. Physical injuries inflicted in group fights carry serious legal consequence. And that concludes my report, and that's all, sir. Thank you for watching.